Last time on Dirt.Garage, you guys saw us get this 1996 Toyota 4Runner running with its new heart. And this time around, we're gonna get it moving under its own power. Brought to you in part by Alpine Toyota. So to get the 4Runner running, you guys saw us rob the bell housing from this transmission so that we could bolt up the starter and crank it. And since then, we've actually made progress in getting this transmission to actually work. You guys may remember it was stuck in reverse before. Well, I enlisted the help of one of my buddies who is actually a tech at Alpine Toyota. He helped me pull this thing apart and unwedge the reverse gear that was wedged and put it back together. We've resealed it and now it shifts smoothly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and reverse. So this thing is ready to go in. But first we need to remove that starter and bell housing so we can put it on that tranny and then put it all back in. I'm sure lots of you guys know how clutches work, but for those of you who don't, what I just installed is the throwout bearing. So you push in the clutch, it pushes in this fork in the back, and forces this bearing forward. And as the throwout bearing comes forward, it pushes down on this, the pressure plate, which releases this spring, which then allows the clutch to spin. Pretty straightforward. Figured I'd educate you guys a little bit for those of you who just don't know. And speaking of the pressure plate and the clutch, time to install that on the flywheel. So first, we gotta install this pilot bearing. This 3.4 was from an automatic, so it's never actually had one in here. But they're pretty straightforward. A little spot right here. You push that in. I've got a socket the same size as that bearing. Gonna use that to slowly push it into place. Next up, we take our fancy clutch alignment tool, shove that through the clutch disc itself. It would appear the tool is way too tight to get in there. I've got another tool, but first I'm gonna make sure that this splines actually go on that transmission. I'll bring it back. Okay. So next up, you take your fancy clutch alignment tool, you run it through your clutch like so, and then you put this end inside the pilot bearing that we just installed. Like that. And the reason for this is so that the clutch stays center on the flywheel when you put the pressure plate on. And then when you go to put the tranny in, everything lines up. So let's see about putting this perfect. Alright. So I'm going to start a couple of these. And then I'm going to come back with a torque wrench and Loctite. The reason I started those two was just to hold that in place. This guy only gets tightened to 14 foot-pounds. So I'm going to put some Loctite on it. Tighten that guy to 14. Loctite. Put on that guy opposite corner. And we're ready to install the tranny. Oh, not looking forward to this. Alright, so the tranny is officially mated to the block, and now it's time to throw the cross member in. And after putting the tranny in, I reattached the transfer case and the starter, and the only thing stopping me from driving this thing out of the shop is a drive shaft. Now, I don't have the third member in the rear yet, so I can't put in a rear drive shaft, but what I can do is put in the front drive shaft and put it in four-wheel drive and drive out. Okay, so the front drive shaft is now in. I've bled the clutch by myself. I think there's enough pedal for the clutch to work. I'm not positive. I might need to get my wife to do a two-man bleed. But let's see. Maybe it's bled enough. Maybe it'll work. It looks like there's enough throw on the fork. So let's see if this thing can drive. Clutch switch. Why is it letting me start? Because I'm not pushing the clutch down, whereas before, the clutch was stuck to the floor. Yeah. Under its own power. Alright, and the next plan of action, now that this thing is out of the shop, is to give it some sort of cooling system so I can take it for a little spin up and down the alley. Unfortunately, when the other 3.4 fell, it destroyed the fan clutch, and this motor did not come with one, and I have yet to find one. So we're going to throw the rad in, connect the hoses, and just run on no fan just for the little tiny test drive. It should be fine with the coolant capacity flowing through. Should be okay. I'll take it easy. If I notice the temperature's creeping up, I'll stop. No power steering yet. Second gear. Alright, clear. Let's go. Second gear. This is awesome! Sam, it's driving.
It's driving.
I went around the block.
Ah, it's driving. So excited.
Do you want to drive it?
Not today.
You need brakes?
I need brakes.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Anyways, guys, that about wraps up this week's episode of Dirt Garage, and thank you for watching. If you could do me a huge favor, smash that thumbs up button, and hey, consider subscribing. We upload weekly Toyota, building, wheeling, and off-roading content. Anyways, I'll catch you next week. Peace.
Yeah, let's go. I'ma make a couple stacks, do exactly what I want to. Mix a couple tracks, get a lady that I'm drawn to. Turn up to the max, get me faded till I'm gone, dude. I do what I want, couldn't stop me if you wanted to. I just work hard, yeah, harder than the rest. Some people say I'm lucky, others say I'm